Hello, my name's Donna. I'm one of the dietitians with the Our Hearts, Our Minds team in the Western Trust. This video today is going to give you some information around healthy eating for a healthy heart and mind. So why is healthy diet important? We know that a poor diet is a major risk factor for cardiovascular disease, cancer and dementia. When we look at heart disease, we know that there are risk factors for heart disease, some which are modifiable and some which are non-modifiable. However, diet plays a key role in managing and preventing some of these risk factors. Things like high cholesterol, high blood pressure, weight and diabetes. Mediterranean diets, when we're talking about a Mediterranean diet, we're talking about the eating style of people living in parts of Italy, France, Spain and Greece. This diet has been thought to be cardioprotective, and this is because evidence has shown that following this way of eating reduces your risk of heart disease by 30%. It also helps manage risk factors such as high blood pressure, high cholesterol, type 2 diabetes and weight. And there's emerging evidence to say that this way of eating may help reduce the risk of neurological conditions such as Alzheimer's and dementia. The main basis of this way of eating includes primarily plant-based foods, having plenty of fruit and vegetables, whole grains such as brown rice and wholemeal bread, fish and oily fish more than twice a week, unsalted nuts and seeds daily, and beans and pulses such as chickpeas and lentils. It also includes small amounts of lean meats, low-fat dairy and olive oil. The Mediterranean diet limits foods like processed foods and foods that are high in salt. What we know from looking at salt is that too much salt increases your blood pressure. Therefore, a key focus of this way of eating is using cooking from scratch and using other flavourings such as onions, garlic, herbs and spices to flavour your foods instead of salt. It also limits red meat and processed meats, foods that are high in saturated and trans fats and refined sugar. Some people think that wine is part of this way of eating, however it is optional. If you do drink alcohol, do so in moderation and follow the government's recommendations of no more than 14 units a week. This is the Mediterranean Diet Score, and this is a tool that we will use during your one-to-one consultation to see how close you are to that way of eating at the minute. It runs from 0 to 14 with a 2-unit increase in your score leading to a significant reduction in your risk of cardiovascular disease. This picture shows us the Mediterranean Diet Pyramid. It summarises the eating pattern, suggesting frequencies and the types of foods that we should have over the space of a day or a week. The health benefits of this diet come from the whole foods rather than one particular food. There may be other lifestyle habits which are likely to be part of the beneficial effect, and these include eating with others, eating slowly, leading a more relaxed way of life and regular physical activity. So the historical evidence has shown that eating too much saturated fat can increase your total and LDL or bad cholesterol. However, the evidence is not as clear-cut as it was, and this is because our intake of saturated fat has significantly reduced over the last 20 years. With some more recent studies showing that saturated fat from some food groups can actually be protective. However, the most important thing is to still think about your quantity or the amount of saturated fat you're having and having it in moderation. A Mediterranean diet is generally low in saturated fat. Some of the food sources of saturated fat include red meat and processed meats, and the visible fat you see in pork, meat and lamb, cheese, cream and butter, and processed foods like sausages, sausage rolls and pies. So trans fats are found mainly in commercially produced baked and fried goods such as biscuits, cakes, buns, fast foods and takeaways. It has been developed in the 1960s as an alternative to saturated fat as it has a longer shelf life, cheaper and maybe tastier. However, it is now very clear that trans fats should be avoided, and this is because they increase the bad or LDL cholesterol and also decrease the good or HDL cholesterol. And trans fats have been shown to have adverse effects for cardiovascular disease and also have links with diabetes. So we also have good fats in our diet, and these have beneficial effects on our cholesterol profile. So the first one is monounsaturated fat, and it's a healthy fat as it helps to increase the good or HDL cholesterol. This type of fat is found in olive oil and rapeseed oil and the spreads that are based on these oils. It's also found in avocados and plain unsalted nuts such as cashew nuts, almonds or Brazil nuts. Polyunsaturated fats help to lower cholesterol as well, and this can also be known as omega-3 or omega-6. These are found in oils such as corn oil, walnut oil, sunflower oil and safflower oil, and the spreads based on these oils. Your oily fish, nuts such as walnuts and seeds. Adapting a more Mediterranean approach would entail reducing your saturated fat and swapping over for these healthier fats instead. However, it is important to remember that fats such as oils and spreads are still high in calories, and therefore portion control is important and using small amounts. These pictures show you what a portion size is. So for oil, a portion size is 1 teaspoon, so it can be useful to measure out how much oil you're using. For butter, a portion size is 1 teaspoon. If you're using butter, make sure you use a thin spread and avoid adding it to foods like potatoes and vegetables. And low-fat spread, a portion is 2 teaspoons. This is a wee question. Which of these contain mainly unsaturated fats? And there's 2 correct answers. Is it butter, coconut oil, rapeseed oil, lard or olive oil? So the correct answer is rapeseed oil and olive oil. And this picture shows us the difference between some of our oils and spreads. So your coconut oil is 87% saturated fat, whereas your rapeseed oil is 7% saturated fat, therefore making it a healthier choice. Butter is 54% saturated fat, whereas an olive oil based spread is 14% saturated fat. Examples of olive oil based spreads include Golden Olive, Bertolli, or supermarket's own olive based spread. So we do need some red meat in our diet for iron. However, too much red meat can increase our risk of cardiovascular disease, as it is a source of saturated fat. Processed meats such as bacon, ham and sausages are also high in salt. So try and have meat no more than 2 to 3 times a week. What can help to reduce your fat intake is to remove any visible fat from the meat. Think about your cooking methods, so rather than frying, going for grill, stew, microwave, boil instead. And choose leaner cuts of meat. Try and have chicken, fish and turkey more often than red meat. Also important is to think about your portion size. It is recommended that we consume no more than 70 grams, which is about 2.5 ounces, of red meat or processed meat per day. And for a quick guide, this would be about half the palm of your hand. By choosing lower fat varieties, we can increase our portion size. So take full fat mince, for example. A portion size is 4 level tablespoons. If we change to reduced fat or 5% fat mince, the portion size is 8 level tablespoons. And corn mince, which is low in fat, a portion size is 10 level tablespoons. This example will show how adjusting the food choices we make and how we cook our foods can help to reduce our calorie and fat intake. This can be done with a traditional fried breakfast. What we can do is choose reduced fat sausages, choose bacon medallions. Think about your cooking methods of these meats, so grill instead of fry. Add vegetables such as mushrooms, tomatoes, beans to your dish, and this will help reduce the amount of red meat you're consuming, and also add to your 5 a day. If you're going for a carbohydrate source, try and choose wholemeal or granary bread. And if you're having an egg, rather than frying your egg, go for scramble or poach instead. And this will lead to a saving of approximately 700 calories and 60 grams of fat. So we also know that fish and oily fish are an important component of the Mediterranean diet. Which of these fish are considered oily? Cod, salmon, haddock, trout, sardines, tuna and mackerel. And there's more than one answer. So the correct answer is salmon, trout, sardines and mackerel. These fish are oily fish and they contain omega-3 fats. Omega-3 fats help to lower triglycerides, slow the growth of plaque, reduce the risk of blood clotting and lower blood pressure. General healthy eating guidelines advise us to have 2 portions of fish a week, one of which is oily. For a more Mediterranean approach, you may increase this to 3 portions a week, and this will include tinned, fresh and frozen fish. A diet rich in fibre has also been associated with lower levels of heart disease. Fibre also helps to stabilise our blood sugars, keep us filled up for longer and manage our weight. When looking at cholesterol, particularly important is soluble fibre, as it helps to lower our cholesterol levels. And it's found in oats, barley, beans, fruit and vegetables. Pulses include beans, peas and lentils. These are low in fat, high in fibre and high in protein, and can make an alternative to meat. what we can do with these foods is add them to dishes to bulk out the dish and reduce the amount of meat we're consuming. So for example, adding a tin of kidney beans to a bolognese, adding lentils to soups or stews, or adding chickpeas to a curry. If we're increasing our fibre intake, we should do so gradually and also increase our fluid intake. So what are high fibre alternatives to the following foods? So for white bread, a high fibre alternative would be wholemeal or granary bread. For cornflakes, changing over to porridge, Weetabix or bran flakes. White pasta, changing over to wholemeal pasta. And white rice, changing to brown rice. So fruit and vegetables are another important component of the Mediterranean diet, and general guidelines recommend that we should have 5 portions of fruit and vegetables a day, with up to 7 portions showing additional health benefits. Fruit and vegetables help protect against heart disease. They're high in vitamins and minerals, and they're low in fat and high in fibre. So a portion of fruit is roughly what fits in the palm of your hand, or 1 medium fruit, 2 small fruits, 10 to 12 grapes, 6 strawberries, 1 dessert spoon of dried fruit, or 150 ml of pure fruit juice. For vegetables, a portion is 1 bowl of salad, 1 bowl of soup, 150 ml of juice, 4 dessert spoonfuls of cooked veg, or 1 small corn on the cob. Fresh, frozen and tinned vegetables and fruit all count. And some easy ways to increase your fruit and vegetable intake include things like adding fruit to your cereal for breakfast, or having fruit as a snack during the day. Adding salad vegetables to your sandwiches, or adding frozen veg into dishes like casseroles, stews, etc. So how do we adapt this more Mediterranean approach? Well, this is an example. So this patient, Mr. X, came to see me in clinic for his first consultation after his heart attack. His Mediterranean diet score was calculated as a 2 out of 14, and what we'd like to see is that increasing by 2 points to reduce his risk of cardiovascular disease. Below is his diet. This is a pattern that we commonly would see here in Northern Ireland. So for breakfast, cornflakes and a spoonful of sugar. Mid-morning time, he was having a cup of tea and 2 biscuits. For lunch, a ham sandwich on white bread and a piece of fruit. Evening meal, meat, potatoes mashed with butter and vegetables. And bedtime, tea and 2 biscuits. So what can we do to make these meals more Mediterranean? So for breakfast, we could change the cornflakes to porridge, adding a spoonful of seeds and a handful of berries. So the porridge is a high fibre or whole grain. It also helps to lower cholesterol levels. Adding a spoonful of seeds will add your healthy fats and again more fibre. And having a handful of berries will add to your 5 a day and also give you additional fibre. So this breakfast would be much more nourishing and satisfying. And also using fruit acts as a natural sweetener, so therefore it helps you avoid the need to use sugar or honey on your cereal. For lunch, we could change over our sandwich fillings, so trying to reduce our red meat and processed meat. Instead, we could go for something like tinned fish, chicken or egg as a filling. If you're using tinned salmon, mackerel or sardines, this will add to your omega-3. Adding salad vegetables to your sandwich will add to your 5 a day. And then using wholemeal bread increases your fibre intake. Be careful with dressings like a salad cream or mayonnaise, as these are high in fat. Try and choose reduced fat varieties and remember to use small amounts. For the evening meal, an alternative option may be something like a casserole using like tinned tomatoes, garlic, herbs and spices. So another idea is to use chicken, fish and turkey more often than red meat, or even to add pulses to the dish, so things like beans, peas or lentils, to reduce the amount of meat that you're consuming. We can also add frozen vegetables to our casseroles and also serving additional vegetables on the side. For potatoes, try and boil potatoes with the skin on. Eating the skin is another source of fibre. And also try and avoid adding any additional fats such as butter to your potatoes or your vegetables. For snacks, what we could do is swap in biscuits for something that's more nourishing and healthy. So something like a portion of fruit, a yoghurt, a small handful of plain nuts, or a quarter of an avocado with crisp bread. So some of the key messages for this cardioprotective diet include aiming for over 5 portions of fruit and vegetables a day, including 2 portions of fish a week, one of which is oily, choosing healthier fats like olive oil, rapeseed oil, nuts and seeds, thinking about your cooking methods to ensure you're not adding any additional fat or calories to what you're making, and including these fibre-rich foods with your meals. The health benefits from this cardioprotective diet come from all these key components working together rather than one particular food. So when we're making these healthy food choices, what can help us to look at food labels? And when we're looking at food labels, there are three key areas to look at. One is the nutrition information table, then the front of pack traffic light system, and the ingredients list. The nutrition information table will always have the amount of energy, fat, saturates, carbohydrates, sugar, protein and salt listed. When it talks about sugar, it's including added sugar and natural sugars. Natural sugars come from fruit and milk. Some labels may also voluntarily add additional information, such as if you're looking at spreads, they may also include mono and polyunsaturated fats. If you're looking at cereals or breads, they may also include fibre. And some labels may also include vitamins and minerals. The information will always be given per 100 grams or 100 mils. And this allows us to compare different products, and it also will include per serving. This is an example of the front of pack labelling. So nutrition information can also be voluntarily repeated on the front of the pack, and this provides at a glance the amount of energy, fat, saturates, salt and sugar that's in the product. Some of these labels can also be colour coded, and this is a useful way to help us pick products that fall into a healthy diet. So if it's red, it means it's high. If it's amber, it's medium. And if it's green, it's low in fat, saturates, sugar or salt. So looking at this example here, at the top of the label we have the portion size, and this is the manufacturer's recommendation for what a portion size is of the product. So for this one it's 2 tablespoons. This can vary between different brands. It also tells us how much energy or calories is in the product. It tells us how much total fat and saturated fat. And as you can see here, fat and saturates are red. That indicates it's high in fat. We can see it'll tell us how much total sugar is in the product, and that includes added and natural sugars, and it's green, so it's low in sugar. And how much salt. And salt's important to look at because we know too much salt increases blood pressure. As you can see, this product is green for salt, so it's low in salt. The percentages along the bottom are relating to reference intake, and this is the recommended maximum daily amount of energy and nutrients that you need for a healthy, balanced diet. The percentage reference intake tells us how much of the reference intake is in the stated portion size. So for example, if you look at saturates, you can see that in 2 tablespoons of this product, it provides 50% of our recommended maximum daily amount of saturated fat. So it's high in saturated fat. The portion sizes on the pack may be less than what you actually consume. If you end up consuming more than the portion size, that will mean you're going to have consumed more calories, fat, saturated fat, salt and sugar than you maybe realise. We also have an ingredients list, and this is a useful way of checking if sugar or salt has been added to a product. For example, in foods like yogurts or cereals, you can check if sugar has been added, or in processed foods you can check if salt has been added. The higher up on the list the ingredient is, the more of it there is in the food. So with this example here, you can see toffee, glucose syrup and sugar are the first 3 ingredients. So that indicates that this product is high in sugar and sugar has been added to the product. Be aware that there's other names for sugar, so anything ending in OSE can indicate sugar, like glucose, or syrup, honey, nectar, fruit juice concentrate. The smallest ingredient there is popcorn. So a nutrition claim is a claim that suggests a food product has a certain nutritional benefit. These are regulated by the Food Standards Agency and the UK government, and food manufacturers must comply with these regulations. If something says it's no added sugar, this indicates that no sugar has been added as an ingredient. However, natural sugars may be present or artificial sweeteners may have been added. Unsweetened indicates that no sugar or sweeteners have been added, but natural sugars may be present from fruit or milk. If it's light or reduced, this indicates it's 30% lower in a particular nutrient than the standard. However, this does not mean that the light version is low in that nutrient, so therefore it's still important to look at your portion sizes. It does help, however, to look at this to help us pick healthier choices when looking at foods that are high in fat, sugar, salt. An example would be mayonnaise. So standard mayonnaise is 80% fat. However, mayonnaise light is 40% fat, so changing over to mayonnaise light will reduce your fat intake by half. However, 40% fat is still considered a high fat product, so you still need to be careful with the amount you're using of it. Low fat, salt and sugar claims genuinely are low in these nutrients and usually will be green on the traffic light system. So some tips for looking at food labels. To compare products, use the Nutrition Information table and use the per 100 gram column on the label. Also, it can be useful to look at the front of pack labelling. When you are doing that, look for more greens and ambers and fewer reds. Check the ingredients list to see if there's any added sugar or salt. When we're looking at carbohydrate-based foods and we want higher fibre alternatives, you can use the Nutrition Information table to check if the product is high in fibre. And what you're looking for is something that has 6 grams of fibre per 100 grams. And also just be aware of the manufacturer's suggestion of what a serving size is, and that will help you manage your portions. So hopefully throughout this video you've identified ways that you can change your diet. Making change isn't easy. But what can help is thinking about what you're going to change and how you're going about it. Set yourself small, realistic, achievable goals, and remember that no matter how small the change is, it will make a big difference in the long term. For further information, a useful website to visit is the British Heart Foundation Healthy Eating Toolkit, and this will give you more information about healthy eating and portion sizes.